Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to day 9 in our series of short videos taking a look at how you can live with more resilience in your life. Today, we'll be focusing on empathy. Before we get into that, I firstly want to acknowledge there is a vast number of people across the world who are unable to experience empathy for no fault of their own, but due to a series of medical conditions. And I didn't want those to go unacknowledged. It's so difficult for us to keep going through and beyond the hard times if we feel that others are not interested in us, that we are not being heard, or we are simply not being listened to. Empathy is about being able to understand the thoughts, emotions, and views of another and react accordingly and respectfully, even if they're not in alignment with our own. People who possess a good level of empathy are extremely good active listeners, not just picking up on the words being spoken, but also the body language and other non-verbal cues. In addition to being good active listeners, people with high levels of empathy are also good communicators, which means they're able to express their own needs and wants while still listening to the needs and wants of the other person. Combining the two of these makes for a good, stronger relationship, something that we will be talking about in more detail in a future video. I'd like to share an example now of a conversation I was involved in recently with a young lady by the name of Amelia Skinner. A young lady just 16 years of age, but with a very old head on young shoulders. Amelia was talking to me about the perception of many older people who believe that the younger generation have no respect for COVID, for lockdown, and for other legislation, and that they're out just partying, raving, and mixing in large groups with no respect for how this could affect the older generation. At the same time, Amelia spoke of the perception within many of her own age group, very passionate about things like preserving the planet, global warming, etc., and hearing the older generation, or many of them, referring to that in terms of saying things like, well, why should I bother recycling? What does the future of the planet mean to me? I'm only going to be here for another few years. I just think if we could bring those two generations together to have empathy with each other, what a difference would we be able to start to make in the world. As you're aware, I always like to keep these videos engaged. So today, my invite to you is to pick at random a conversation you have, whether that would be with a client, a spouse, a colleague, whoever it may be, and just think to yourself, if you had to retell what they had just said, not only in your own words, but reflecting what their emotions were at the time of sharing that, how well would you do? I invite you to give it a try. This is as far as I wanted to go with our video for today. I will be back with you with another video tomorrow in our series. Until then, my usual parting words to you: you are more than a survivor, you are a thriver. I so look forward to seeing you once again tomorrow.